Hey guys, welcome to my long-awaited Estée Lauder foundation overview video. Pause for dramatic effect. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about and demonstrating every single foundation that Estée Lauder currently makes. Everything from good old-fashioned Country Mist all the way up to the new Re-Nutriv foundations. The only thing that I'm not going to be talking about in this video are the BB cream tinted moisturizers. There's 4 of them that are available. Those will be in a separate video. I'm just throwing them in a different category. So let's jump right in and start talking about some makeup. I did have my friend Dani, who's Sea of Neon on YouTube, come into the studio and let me apply all of the foundations on her face. There were no primers used for the foundations. However, in between each application, we did moisturize with Estee Lauder's Revitalizing Supreme. The brush that I used was the Wayne Goss number 13 brush. I wanted something really soft because this is a lot of foundations to get through, and there was no need to exfoliate. After going through all of these foundations, even the very last one, there was not a complaint at all of, oh, that brush is too scratchy or my skin really hurts. So that's probably saying something. So let's kick things off here with Perfectionist Youth Infusing Makeup. This is one of Estee Lauder's most recent additions to their foundation range. What they're selling you on here is the idea of a foundation that includes, in part, their Perfectionist serum, which is now called Perfectionist CP plus R. It used to just be Perfectionist CP plus. It's a very good serum. Lauder tends to be my go-to for serums in a department store, simply because of how well formulated they are. This is an antioxidant rich foundation. There's plenty of skin loving ingredients. At an SPF level of 25, it also offers fairly decent sun protection. I don't know how youth infusing it is, but skincare claims are something that I never really get super gung-ho about. What I like about this foundation is how well it feels and looks on the skin. The shade range is fairly diverse. It wears well throughout the day. You have a very natural finish that lasts a good 8 to 10 hours, depending, of course, on your skin type, climate, activities, etc. The coverage is medium. The texture is smooth. I actually gave my mom this foundation in her shade to test for me on her 60+ combination skin, and she loved it. She said the texture made her other foundations feel almost gritty by comparison. Most of Estee Lauder's foundations are paraben, talc, and fragrance-free, and this one is no exception. There is an emollient alcohol ingredient, but it is not one of the bad alcohols. Bad alcohols that you want to watch out for are methanol, ethanol, isopropyl, things like that. Acceptable ones like this one act as like humectants, like glycerin, and they help to draw moisture and ingredients into the skin. So there's nothing bad about it at all. Oh, hear that? Invisible fluid. Do I have that the right way? Yes. Invisible fluid is probably the foundation that I have recommended the most to people, and I will tell you why. Over the past few years, you've seen a resurgence of toner-style foundations. It's an old-fashioned recipe for foundation. They look like skin when you apply them, and they're very thin and very watery, but I just am uncomfortable putting that much alcohol on my face. This little guy right here is very similar. It has the same thin, watery, natural, lightweight looking finish to the skin with absolutely no alcohol. Again, zero fragrance, zero talc, zero parabens. And the reason I recommend it so much is because it doesn't really feel like you have a whole lot on. So it's that foundation for people who don't like to wear foundation. To apply this, you do need to shake it up. There's a little ball in there. The coverage is sheer, but buildable to sort of a sheer medium, and the finish is very natural, glowy satin. The color selection is exemplary. There's no SPF listed on this, so if you're using it as a daily foundation, make sure that you pair it with a moisturizer that has good broad spectrum sun protection. Absolutely recommend this one. Again, as I said, it's one of my favorites. Anyone who ever talks to me about Vitalumiere Aqua by Chanel, I always pull this one out and say, but have you tried this? Because this is pretty much the same and it won't damage your skin. Double wear, double wear, double wear, stay in place makeup. Double wear is without a doubt Estee Lauder's probably their like flagship foundation. It's their biggest seller. It's the one everybody knows. It comes with a claim of 15-hour wear time. And while I personally believe that that depends on where you are, your activity level, all kinds of different stuff, it is a very long wearing foundation. The coverage here is medium but buildable to almost full, and the finish is what I would call a semi-matte. The color variety is excellent, offering plenty of shades to choose from, although when they recently reformulated this foundation, they changed many of the colors but kept the same names, which led to a fair amount of confusion. The confusion was compounded by the fact that Lauder says that this won't change color, which is actually completely false. The new formula oxidizes. This means it will change to a slightly darker color once it dries on the skin. It is still possible to shade match very easily. Just don't go off of the bottle and like hold it to your face, but you really shouldn't be matching your foundation that way anyway. Once again, this is fragrance-free, paraben-free, talc-free. It does contain titanium dioxide, but the levels are low enough to where it isn't listed as a sunscreen. So there is no SPF listed. It's fine. It just means pair this with something that has an SPF, because this isn't providing adequate enough protection according to current FDA standards. Wow, that was a lot to try and say. All right, let's talk about Double Wear Light right here. Double Wear Light Stay in Place makeup is like the, I can't believe it's not Double Wear version of Double Wear. It is lighter, the coverage is a little less, the wear time is exactly the same. This is what I like to think of as a nice basic makeup. When I say that, I don't mean that it's bad at all. It has a medium coverage, it's water-based, it's got some silicone in it for some slip. It dries to a natural finish that suits just about any skin type, and it looks good on just about everyone. This one, just by the way, was one of Dani's favorites. This and one of the Re-Nutriv foundations were her top two when we were applying these. Like most of Estée Lauder's other foundations, this is talc and paraben and fragrance-free. The shade range is fairly limited at only 12, but the range within that 12 is fairly diverse, so it's easy to shade and color match. This is, and I've mentioned this before, one of my favorite foundations. This is one that I keep in my kit in multiple colors. I really like this one. It's like a nice workhorse foundation. It does exactly what you need it to do and nothing else. It's good. I'm making it sound boring, and it's really actually quite good. All right, Double Wear Stay in Place Pressed Powder right here, ta-da, and Double Wear Mineral Rich, oh, I don't have that screwed on, Loose Powder. Ooh. Okay, so here's the deal. Both of these are Estée Lauder's powder foundations. Both of them have different claims of wear time. They both have different ingredients, but they're really, really similar. You can tell a difference on the skin, but because they're so similar, I'm just going to be talking about these together. They are both talc-based powder foundations. One comes in a compact with a little puff sponge thing, and one comes in a jar with a little puff sponge thing. Both of these are fragrance-free, offer sheer to medium coverage, and can, of course, be used as a setting powder should you choose. Typically, I think that powder foundations sit well with oily skin types because of the oil absorbing qualities and powder matte finish. Think of products like Studio Fix Powder by MAC, which offers very good coverage and an extremely matte finish. Neither of these are like that though. So if you're looking for that, look elsewhere. But if you want something lighter than Studio Fix because it's too dry, too chalky, just too heavy, either of these will make a good option. I've worn both of them several times, have found them comfortable to wear even with my dry skin. In fact, if I go back to my original notes on these, I wrote that they didn't look or feel like powder foundations, which I liked. They're both hard to build past the point of medium coverage though. The loose powder being loose, it's easier to just pack it on faster. Beyond that, it's all a matter of preference. Would you rather have something portable in a compact or something loose in a jar? Other than that, I think they're, and I know I'm not supposed to think this, but I think that they're very, very similar. Are you ready for this? Double Wear Max Cover. It's actually Double Wear Maximum Cover Camouflage Makeup for face and body. Ding. Double Wear Max Cover, as I call it, is probably my favorite full coverage foundation ever made. This is something really unique. It offers both insane, crazy coverage and the most lightweight feel you've ever had from something that covers this well. The only thing that's a little bit tricky about this one is that it dries kind of quickly, so you have to work a little fast, and it is hard to layer once it's dry. Though I don't know why you would want 2 layers of this, because one is really plenty. There is no fragrance in here. However, it is heavy-handed on the silicone. So if you don't like that, be warned, though I think it's what gives it the luxurious, soft feel that it has when you apply it. The shade range is somewhat limited when you compare it to other foundations like the regular Double Wear, which has, I think, around like 30 colors. Double Wear Max only has 10, but they cover a decent range and are easily blended with one another. Finally, it makes a wonderful concealer, both for under eye or blemishes. Keep that in mind. If you don't want something that's a whole full coverage foundation, you're looking for a really good concealer, give this one a try. It will last forever. Keep it in the fridge. I like to keep all of my liquid and cream foundations in the fridge if I can, because it will extend, it will double, if not triple, the shelf life of the product. I've had this for a long time, and it still works perfectly. All right, now we're getting to the good stuff. Are you ready? Country Mist. Country Mist is one of those foundations that you will hear people often say, oh, I've loved that foundation for over 40 years. That's because they have. This was launched in the 70s, and not much has changed, if anything, since it was originally launched. What you have here is a lightweight, incredibly moisture-rich foundation with sheer to maybe almost medium coverage, but not really, and a very fresh, dewy look that does not dry down. Keep that in mind. Dry skin types might find this soothing. Oily skin folks will probably just see this slip off their face and onto the floor in a matter of hours. There's no modern bells or whistles here. There's no SPF listed. What you've got is a water-based foundation with talc for the smooth texture that silicone does nowadays. And it's one of Estee Lauder's very few scented foundations. The fragrance here is sort of what I call grandmother's bathroom. It's got that baby powder quality, but it's also got something herbal in it too. Either way, the good news is that it doesn't linger on the skin, so you're not going to smell it an hour or two later. The shade range is unfortunately dreadfully limited, and I am assuming that that's because it's just a product that doesn't sell well anymore. And just as an aside, one of the things that I find really interesting about this foundation is you've got people all over the place screaming for these new foundations, like from YSL and Tom Ford, these barely there, dewy looking foundations. Oh my God, I love that. And then you've got this little guy over here in the corner going, I've been doing that for years. And if all you want is my opinion, I actually really like it. All right, Fresh Air Makeup Base. This is another one of Estee Lauder's really old foundations that's still in production. Unfortunately, it also has a very limited shade range. Sad face. But again, if you are a makeup collector, if you're interested in kind of a little bit of makeup history, this is definitely one to check out because they just don't make matte foundations like this anymore. This heavily scented, i.e. bothers my eyes when I wear it, water and clay based matte finish foundation is actually a lot of fun to work with. However, it's not something that I would really recommend to anyone because there are just far better, more options. I found that it looked really good for about an hour, and then just like a clay mask started to break down around the pores. Take a look at the website though, and you'll see that the people who love it. It's been around for a long time. There's people who still use it and they rave about it. As a collector, I think things like this are fun because they give you insight into what makeup was and what a matte foundation was 20, 30 years ago. There is no SPF listed. It is talc free. It is paraben free. It is obviously not fragrance free because the fragrance is really strong in here. I don't recommend it, but I absolutely recommend it. Does that make sense? Check it out. Lucidity, I believe, came out in the 90s, and it totally reminds me of the 90s. It's got this like rubbery rubber band Band-Aid smell that a lot of foundations have that I used to wear in the 90s. What this is supposed to do is reflect light away from fine lines and wrinkles with special light diffusing pigments. What I think this does do is cover the skin like a medium coverage foundation from the 90s. I've had problems with this coming out looking patchy. I think that it can emphasize pores more. And since the wear time isn't particularly great, the more you put on, the more noticeable it is as it fades. It doesn't look bad, though. I found on myself, if I use my hands and turn it into a sheer foundation because of the small amount that I use, it's got a nice glow and can have a nice natural finish, albeit with very sheer coverage. Perhaps this was state of the art at the time it was originally launched, but it's kind of just plain, I think, by today's standards, and not quite old enough to be vintage and fun yet. There is no SPF officially listed, though prior to the FDA's rule changes regarding SPF, this did have in my bottle, still says SPF level 8 on it. Talc is high on the list, and silicone is the second ingredient behind water. And this is not paraben free, just by the way. Let's talk about Futurist. Futurist foundation. Futurist is one of those foundations that I look at and I think, why are you here? And I think the reason that it's still in production is because it sells really well, and there's a lot of people that really, really like this. So what's my problem with it? What you have here is a water and silicone-based foundation with a smooth texture and an SPF level of 15. It's a good medium coverage foundation with a natural, slightly dewy glow. So what's wrong with that? Absolutely nothing. It's just that that's what Resilience Lift Extreme does, plus a bunch of other stuff. So in a lot of ways, this is like Resilience Lift Extreme without the better sun protection, without the better antioxidants and skin-loving ingredients that Resilience Lift has. Like most of Estée Lauder's foundations, Futurist is fragrance. Once more, fragrance, talc, and paraben-free. Say it with me. And the shade range is very limited here. I've actually heard rumors that Perfectionist might be the one that's knocking this one out of the current lineup of permanent foundations that are offered, but these are just rumors, nothing I've heard officially in any way. So since I can't shut up about it, let's talk about Resilience Lift Extreme. This is one of my favorite foundations from Estée Lauder. This is one of my favorite foundations, period. I describe this often as like Studio Fix Fluid by MAC, but way better. And I love Studio Fix Fluid. This has the same skin smoothing properties and like photo ready finish that Studio Fix Fluid has. It just doesn't have the same matte heaviness or the same thick acrylic paint-like texture that Studio Fix Fluid by MAC has. Resilience Lift is also loaded with antioxidants and skin-loving ingredients and a nice silky silicone-rich formula. It glides over the skin really nicely. It blends really well. I just love the way that this one looks. It's far more important probably than the skincare ingredients is how it looks. And this one looks really, really good. Once more, Resilience Lift Extreme is talc-free, paraben-free, and fragrance-free. If you like Studio Fix Fluid by MAC, but you want to try something that's less made for painting vinyl siding on a house, check this one out. There's another one, Resilience Lift Extreme Cream Compact version. The Cream Compact version, I'm going to open this up so you can see, of Resilience Lift Extreme, and it's got a little thing that you can fly out on the floor, offers more immediate coverage than its liquid counterpart with the same skin smoothing, nice finish. It took me a while to pick this one up because I'm quite frankly just not a big fan of cream foundations. I prefer liquids. They're easier to custom blend and I can alter them by adding pigments, other products and stuff to change them up. As cream foundations go, this is nice, but be prepared for something that's not at all dry or like dries to a powder finish kind of foundation. This is very soft. It's very emollient. It's a good medium coverage foundation. It's buildable to nearly full without getting cakey. Because of this, it works great as a touch-up foundation throughout the day, and some may find a separate concealer is not necessary. Like most of Lauder's other foundations, there's no fragrance, talc, parabens. The color selection, while decent, I personally find lacks some options that I would like to see. If you're a fan of cream foundations or you're looking for something that's portable that you want to kind of try out for touch-ups throughout the day, this is one to check out. I think that it works well on multiple skin types as well as on younger and more mature skin. It's just a nice cream foundation. Ta-da! All right, 2 more left. We're going to talk about not this one, but this one. Estée Lauder Re-Nutriv Ultra Radiance Lifting Cream Makeup. The luxury line of skincare that Estée Lauder makes is called Re-Nutriv. It's been around for, I think the first face cream was made in the 50s. Both the Re-Nutriv Cream Foundation, the old one, and the liquid one, which I'll show you in a second, were recently discontinued, reformulated, repackaged, renamed. So what's the difference between the old one and the new one? Well, the old one is called Ultimate Lifting Cream Makeup. This one is called Ultra Radiance Lifting Cream Makeup. So there's a couple letters there. Other than that, there's actually not that much in the way of differences. The formula remains very much the same. It's a water-based, silicone-rich, whipped cream-like foundation with a rich, thick texture and medium to buildable, but not full coverage. The finish is definitely glowing. Dry skin types may even get away without powdering this one, but really, you're probably going to want to anyway. This is one of the rare foundations Estée Lauder makes that does contain perfume, but it's far down on the list. It doesn't last too long on the skin. It shouldn't cause problems with most skin types. Aside from the addition of more antioxidants and stuff like that, the main difference, the good thing about this over this, is the wider shade range that they've made available. But I really like it. I've always liked this. I love this. It's just a favorite, and this would, like this, be one of my favorite foundations of all time again, as this always was, except I found a new one. Behold, Re-Nutriv Ultra Radiance Makeup by Estée Lauder. This is the replacement for the old Re-Nutriv Ultimate Radiance Makeup. So this is Ultra, this is Ultimate. Don't pay any attention to this one. The older version wasn't bad, but it was never one of my favorites. The shade range was really bad. I could never find anything that came in any color that was remotely like my skin. And I just didn't like the way that it looked. It felt greasy and heavy and didn't dry down at all in any way. What's different about this? Absolutely everything. The funny thing is, when I look at the ingredients, hardly anything has changed. So I'm going to say that there's magic involved. This is magic, this is like Photoshop magic in a bottle. Keebler elves were involved in making this foundation. In fact, this is so far, in my opinion, from what the previous Re-Nutriv foundation looked and felt like, that if it weren't for the scent that's in here, the Re-Nutriv scent, I'd have no idea that they were related. What you basically have here, though, is a water-based, silicone-rich liquid foundation, offers medium coverage. It's easy to apply lightly for sheer coverage, but even when you layer it for more, it doesn't look cakey at all. It just keeps looking like beautiful, beautiful, beautiful skin. They've added far more colors to the range, just like with the cream, so I was able to wear this without correcting it at all with another product. It absolutely 100% has replaced my old love of the Re-Nutriv Cream Foundation, the old cream foundation. This like blew it out of the water. This is incredible. I love this stuff. Highly recommend it. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. I know that this was long. I hope that it was entertaining enough to be bearable, and I really hope that you learned something and you find this review helpful. Thanks so much again to Sea of Neon on YouTube, my friend Dani, for coming into the studio and letting me do all of these foundations on her face. It really helps to be able to see a demonstration and not just talk about a product. It really helps to see how it looks on the skin. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, please leave them in the comment section. I will do my best to get back to you. Until I see you next time, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please remember, take care and drive safe.